Hi, my name is Tyler Newton, and the presentation today I have is on designing intuitive user interfaces. Overall purpose into creating those seamless user experiences that everyone wants for every platform. So to begin, let's go over some definitions. UI stands for user interface, and UX is for user experience. And a good UI is what makes a good UX. Overall, the user should not be able to notice your user interface. And if that's the case, and you're not receiving any complaints or any notices about it, that's almost entirely a good thing. As I like to say, a good UI is one that's not noticed. In understanding user-centric design, as in putting the user first, we have a couple things that we can look at. One of which would be like user archetypes. What are our different types of users or customers? What are their individual needs and what do they look for in the platform? And in designing our platform, we could do some interviews with these different types of customers and see what they ideally would like in a platform, what they would use it for, and what potentially they would become a longtime member for. Uh, as well as in creating a user-centric design, quality assurance is important in almost every aspect of life. And it's important to have it here nonetheless in terms of making sure that we're not excluding people based on language or accessibility as well. Those are also very important to make sure that, especially for things like government interfaces, it's able to encompass every single type of person and make sure that the forms that they create are all encompassing, very robust. And in creating value, that's the basics of engineering. So some principles in UI design. We have consistency, which is making sure that your buttons look the same all throughout so people see one and they can instantly recognize what the purpose of it is. We have simplicity, like this image here. It's a very clean design. It's very easy on the eyes and it's very understandable in terms of what the purpose of it is and how you interact with it, as well as the information that it gives is very clear and understandable. It's very visible. We're able to see everything that we need to see for a given element. For color and typography, these are some attributes that we could associate with user interface design, in that we need to look at what colors function properly, making sure that we're not having very blinding colors offending the user's eyes. Uh, and we could look at different fonts for that as well to make sure that it's very legible and understandable. We're not having something that looks like cursive from the 1600s. For a visual hierarchy and layout, we the one of the main purposes of a hierarchy is to entice users to understand what to look for first and the overall how crucial a bit of information is. So typically, in terms of font size, the larger a word is, the first going to be the first thing the user looks at. And then they're going to look lower and lower and second and third in terms of as the font size decreases. So making sure that our hierarchy is well designed, make sure that the user looks through the platform or the given item in the correct order that gives them the information in the best format. Intuitiveness is also a very critical aspect of hierarchy. Basically, it's this concept of discoverability in terms of how long does it take for someone to understand how to use the platform. You don't want something that takes a whole lot of time to work up a knowledge base on how to use. It should be very understandable based on, for instance, other apps that exist and making sure that they're very understandable and clear to use. For interactive elements like buttons and forms, we want to make sure that, like we said before, they're very clear and concise. They're very consistent. Navigation between pages, for example, we want it to be very clear. We don't want it to be a situation where users are going on a hunt in order to figure out where to go next. It should be very obvious when they're done with one step. This is what you press to move on. For forms, in terms of data entry, making sure that we have things like error handling. So if we're looking for an integer and the user inputs a string, including letters and other non-numeric characters, then we can have some sort of exception handling and understanding that instead of just causing an error and crashing the app or potentially making the user re-enter everything, we could just say, hey, You can't enter that here. It needs to be a number. For responsiveness and adaptability, we want to make sure that things are very smooth. We want a high frame rate, if you will, in terms of the app or website, making sure that it's very silky smooth. I have an example here of some butter in that it needs to be smooth enough that it's not choppy. We don't want things looking like they're super outdated. Things nowadays, we want things clean looking, very smooth, integrated, intuitive, and having these attributes makes the user experience much more tolerable. For example, let's look at Instagram. The way that they have their format set up in scrolling your basic feed, uploading, looking for friends and other people on the app. It's all very it's all very consistent, and the simplicity of the navigation is actually a wonderful aspect of it. And it's been that way for a decent amount of time now, and their user base reflects that. And the overall term I would use is eye candy because it's very easy on the eyes and it's very understandable. So, in conclusion, we want to make sure that our user interfaces are very intuitive. We want to make sure that they're consistent, so they're understandable. We want visibility, so we're able to see everything we need to about every object. We want it to be simple, so every user can use it without it being too difficult or requiring assistance. And obviously, ease of use. And we have a couple sources here. Thank you.